Welcome back to the Borders Competitions Jim Clark Rally Round 3 of the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. I'm Paul Woodford, and I'll be on my own for this second stage this evening here at Langton Mill. We were originally only going to be able to fit one stage in this evening, but we thought, you know what, we will stick around rather than going back to the regroup or service, and we'll bring you 2 stages of live action this evening. What better way to spend your Friday night than watching the UK's fastest asphalt rally drivers on some of the most iconic tarmac, or asphalt I should say, shouldn't I, in rallying. And how amazing it was to have 1990 World Ladies Rally Champion Louise Aitken-Walker join us on the first run through this stage. She is a wonderful ambassador for this sport and a fearsome competitor in her day, and still has the same passion for the sport. You could see the energy stood here with her, and it's always a privilege. I would like to dedicate this weekend's live coverage to a very good friend of mine and a friend of many people who will be watching, Steve Johnson, who lost his fight with kidney disease in this last week. My thoughts are with his lovely family and all of his friends. He was a great guy and would have loved tuning in. In fact, one of the last things he did was tune in to the Plains Rally with Phil Bramwell and the team. And I sat watching that in the hospice with him last week. So it's been a tough week. I'd like to dedicate this to him and his family, because this was one of his favourite rallies. James Williams, Di Roberts back alongside, leads the way as far as the Protyre crews go. 15.8 seconds ahead of Callum Black. Jack Morton, our reigning champions, 2-time champion Callum, 3-time, of course, Jack Morton. And it's the Jerseyman, Sam Toozle, Max Freeman alongside in 3rd place. 9.5 back. Mark Kelly, Will Atkins after them. And then our championship leader coming into this 3rd round, Jason Pritchard, Phil Clark in the Yaris Rally 2. Had a bit of a nightmare through this first stage, clipping the driver's side of the car on the first left-hander in this 1.97 mile opener at Langton Mill, and then getting it all wrong in the water splash, as you will have seen on our live stream if you were tuned in earlier. Managing to gather it up, and very lucky to just get away with a small remodelling of the front bumper on that North Road Garage Yaris Rally 2. Not as lucky as Gary Pearson in the BRC crews, though. Fully broadside into the water splash. Somehow managing to take out all of the banks and take out very little bodywork in the process. And live to fight another stage. Anyway, splitting Jason Pritchard, our championship leader, and Neil Roskell, the driver coming here second in the championship with Rob Fagg alongside, is Cal McCarthy. Eric Callan alongside the Irish pair in the Citroen C3 Rally 2 in 6th overall in the Protyre crews. Then it's Johnny Greer 8th, Steve Simpson 9th, and rounding out the top 10 in the Protyre crews at the moment, the fastest 2-wheel drive car, and a man who really is on fire at the moment and gave us a good performance earlier. Comes here leading Class C from 8th overall in the championship standings. Hugh James, Lewis Sim alongside. What a result from him. And if you are following the overall rally result, then we will be following the narrative of the Protyre crews, of course, but we will be bringing you action from all of the crews. And indeed, on tomorrow's live streams, we'll be bringing you action, and reaction will be at the stage ends as well. The action gets underway live here on special stage tomorrow for stage 8 from 10:30 in the morning or just before. Have a late breakfast with us, or just join us halfway through the morning, and then stage 12 as well at 12 minutes past 1 in the afternoon. So 2 live stages for you tomorrow as well. Looking forward to that. Myron Evans, Dale Furness then lead the way in the overall rally this evening after a very fast opening loop. They've got a 4.2 second gap in that Castrol Yaris Rally 2 from Ewan Thorburn, Paul Beaton. Local heroes. This rally's never been very good to them. The Reavers is another matter, but here on the Jim Clark, Ewan Thorburn would quite like to, well, do it for the home fans, and he's certainly got the biggest cheer. Actually, no, Gary Pearson got the biggest cheer, probably because of the angle that he entered the water splash in, but Ewan Thorburn got the biggest cheer from the fans here watching at Langton Mill. And we've got fans and ducks and all manner of wildlife, haven't we? Anyway. Robert Jurgensen, the M-Sport hopeful young Estonian driver, is into the stage. It's a 1.97 mile stage, so we'll see from him shortly. Currently 4th place behind our leading Protyre challenger, James Williams, who currently rounds out the podium positions after 3 stages. This, the 4th stage of 6 today, just under 100, over 100 stage miles in total, making up this weekend's Jim Clark Rally Round 3 of the championship, and tonight's loop of 6 stages, or 2 loops of 3, making up a total of 46.5 of rallying's most iconic asphalt. Here comes the M Sport Fiesta, wipers on, lamp pods ablaze, the lights picking out the spectator bank like searchlights as the light starts to dim here in the Scottish borders. The anti-lag of the Rally 2 Fiesta, which seems to get louder with every passing year, doesn't it? And I'm all about that. Sounds formidable in the cool night air here in Scotland. The breeze that we had earlier has dropped, but it's cooling off, and that will matter for our competitors. Message from Tim Rogers. It's not breakfast, but he had steak, pie and chips at the Motorist this evening. Well, it's good steak pie at the Motorist as well. And indeed, our guest earlier in the live coverage, Louise Aitken-Walker, will be joining me on the 26th of July at the Motorist for a very special Rally Legends evening. Look out for details of that on the Motorist's social media. There is the man leading the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship here at round 3 at the Jim Clark Rally, last year's Manx Rally winner overall. Will he add the Jim Clark to that on his CV? That would be one heck of a pair of results, wouldn't it? Let's not count any chickens too early. James Williams, 3rd of the overall crews. We are here to cover the Protyre Championship, but our sponsors and our championship organisers at the BTRDA are just as passionate about this sport as we are, and as we know you are. So we will be covering every single car on this entry this evening. I'm hoping, I haven't looked, there's no retirements to show, hoping Phil and Joe Hind-Morden are still running in the Fiat X19, because I loved seeing that thing through. Some real variety from Phil. He's a one-man Paul Woodford bingo session, isn't he? The Datsun, followed by the Starion, followed by that Fiat X19 so far this season. This season so far. Ewan Thorburn then, Paul Beaton. Pushing a bit harder to look at least, in the Polo R5 on the second time through. The Langton Mill water splash in front of the spectators. It's always a popular spectator spot, this, particularly in the first stage, as it's just a couple of miles down from Duns, where the ceremonial start for the event takes place. Hello, if you are watching in Duns on the big screen. I should imagine Dunk Vincent is down there entertaining you all. And a big hello to all of the marshals, the volunteers who have turned out in their droves to support this event this weekend. You are the real life heroes of the show. You know, those guys on the stage are providing the entertainment, but you are the people that make the magic happen. So thank you for marshalling. The unmistakable sound of the Yaris Rally 2 does look good, doesn't it? In that Yaris, in that 90s Group A livery, the Castrol livery on the Yaris that took, well, the sister car to the one that took the BRC title, of course, last season. If you're just tuning in, welcome to coverage of the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. It is round 3. It is the Borders Competitions Jim Clark Rally, and this is Langton Mill, the water splash, the famous water splash that was probably more famous than ever last year after that viral video of the police motorcyclist going down in the water. No injuries to report, I'm pleased to say, but plenty of social media entertainment to be had out of that one. I think the mileage is still going as well. The police actually wisely chose a BMW X5 and I think it was a Volvo XC90 this year, which they came through in before the stage with the blues and twos on, pushing hard through there then. Our reigning champions, Callum Black, Jack Morton, currently second place in the Protyre Championship crews, carrying their speed through there and being very careful not to lock the brakes up through the water splash and just let the car run wide a little bit to scrub off the additional speed. You don't want to panic coming through there, but the experience showing for Callum and Jack. One of the number of crews here this weekend who missed the Manx Rally, hedging their bets on the BRC campaign at this early stage of the season. And Callum's got experience. He knows that, especially after last year, his championship was almost done and dusted, or so it seemed. Stood there interviewing at the Manx Rally as James took that overall victory. Callum was dejected, and that was it for him. But he came back and he won the title convincingly after a late season battle. Neil Roskell, once again, the runner-up, and not settling for that in 2025. So Callum knows he can get that fight on later in the season if he needs to. He just tried to get some points on the board at the Manx for his BRC campaign, but he's back here fighting for the Protyre points. As you see, Max McRae, Cameron Fair alongside, who came 8th overall on last year's Jim Clark Rally in that C3 Rally 2. Nice job of the hairpin after the water splash here at Langton. Don't forget, if you are tuned into the coverage this weekend, if you get involved, just let us know where you're watching from. Let us know who you're rooting for, what your top tips are, who you predict might end up in the top 3 at the end of this iconic rally. And you will go in the draw to win one of our Money Can't Buy Rallying is Life Lombard RAC Rally themed hats, which if we were to sell them, I'm sure would sell a treat. If you've commented, if you've got involved, you're in the draw, because like us, our merchandise partner Rallying is Life, Dan Elmore's company, want to get you more involved with rallying and with our coverage. Gary Pearson, Hannah McKillop. I'm sure Hannah will have had her pencil ready to give him a quick strategic stab in the knee, should he have got too excited this time. Just got on the outside of the right-hander coming into the braking zone for the water splash on the first run through the stage earlier this evening, and you knew it was going wrong, and it was going wrong very quickly. But he managed to somehow get away with it, and there he is fighting another day. So times then will be coming through shortly. You can find them at results.djames.org.uk. I will give you an update. Ewan Thorburn once again setting the early pace through here. Robert Jurgensen second fastest, 150.9 from Ewan. As you see Mark Kelly and Will Atkins into the water splash in the polo. It just sounded like the Kelmore group polo was going to cut out there, didn't it, through the water splash? Maybe clutched it a bit coming through there. Kept it going. Ewan a 150.9 then. Robert Jurgensen, the first of the M Sport drivers, 151.5. It's close. Myron Evans not quite as quick through this second running of the stage. Blistering time the first time through. It does leave him with a 2.1 second lead still, though. It's cut in half, isn't it? By Thorburn there, local hero. Callum Black then fourth fastest. The first of our Protyre crews on the leaderboard for the stage here in Langton Mill for the second running. James Williams just behind. Just over a second behind, in fact. Dale Robertson, Keir Beaton. Expect to see them fighting for the silverware this weekend as far as the overall rally is concerned. Not focused on either championship, but as you heard Louise remind us earlier, a school bus driver drives the Abbey St Bathans stage every day of the week. Imagine saying that at school. Not featuring in this year's rally, actually. The 1.97 mile stage through Langton Water Splash here, through Langton Mill, followed by a 7.5 mile stage of Fogo for stage 5. It's a repeat of the earlier loop, and then Bothwell. I can't remember the last time we used Bothwell, actually. A good time ago. Probably early in our days of covering Jim Clark, to be honest. At least 10 years ago, I'd say. Second of the Yarrises through the stage then, Jonathan Greer, Niall Burns. Jason Pritchard having moved back slightly in road order. The Bothwell stage, 13.77 miles, by the way. Hardly a monster, but certainly the longest of the day, and it will be tricky as the roads cool, and especially coming into here, because that water from the water splash is lingering on the stage. We saw it earlier, didn't we? Just how slippery it was. Did a water splash on a classic Tour road rally last weekend in the little Spark Developments Mini R53. Great fun. Everyone loves the water splash, don't they? Here he is there, the man. Oh, sideways there, coming into the right-hander. The camera flashes, starting to pick up the cars in this dusky light here on the borders of Scotland as Neil Roskell and Rob Fagg sliding the car nicely around at the top of the hill. You can't quite see that from your camera position where we are on the stage, but I can see nice, neat and tidy from Neil. And if it's anything like earlier, we'll be looking to pick up the pace. Said he was quite happy though, to be honest. Roger and Tommy Henderson, by the way, out of the rally, having hit a deer at about 100 miles per hour. Not quite as much as damage as I would have expected on the picture I saw of the front of the car, but certainly some damage, enough to see them retire from the rally. Damien Cole has been off as well on stage 3. Someone said earlier he missed a telegraph pole. I thought they said he is Mr. Telegraph Pole. That was his new nickname. Our 6-time Asphalt champ, Mr. Telegraph Pole, as you see Elliot Payne. Patrick Walsh, who retired, having drowned the car out. Quite a few of the M Sport cars drowned out in the water splash on last year's Langton Mill stage. No such bad luck for Elliot this time out. Twice through this water splash, twice without issue. But he's got 2 more. Is it 2 more runs through the water splash to enjoy tomorrow? But nice and neat and tidy through there, wasn't he? I'll get back to the results in a minute, so you know how we're getting on. Not a bad time from Neil Roskell, actually. 8th fastest overall on the stage, which a quick bit of maths puts him 4th fastest in the Protyre cruise. Most crucially, though, is the time from Jason Pritchard. David Wright, Jane Nicol did a solid job through the first run. We'll be looking for more of the same through here. Coming here 4th overall in the championship standings. A rally that they both like. Jane, a bit emotional one for her on home lanes, having lost her father recently, as Louise mentioned earlier. They'll be looking for a good run here. The car caught fire quite dramatically and caused quite a lot of damage on last year's Jim Clark. But nice job through the water splash for David Wright, former BTRDA champion, of course. The second last B13, or Group N as it was then, Production Cup driver to win, wasn't he? BTRDA Gold Star on the gravel. Sean Gardner, the last of them in the Evo 6. Got a lovely Evo 6 for you as well later in the entry. If you didn't tune in earlier, you're going to love that. And it's bright enough that you're going to see it, even if it's a little darker than this as well. Matthew Hurst, Declan Deere then. A fierce campaign so far this season from them in that Skoda Fabia R5 on the gravel. We've seen that in the Protyre Autocare BTRDA Rally Series, but what can they do on the asphalt? Not registered for points here in the Protyre Championship, but we will be keen to watch their progress nevertheless. That's better for Gary Pearson. The 9th fastest time through here. I say it's better. He won't be happy with the time, but he'll be happy to have kept his nose clean and not risked any more damage to the well, front or rear of that M Sport Rally 2 Fiesta, because there was every chance of a remodeled corner or two, wasn't there, coming into this water splash earlier. Tell you what though, the video's on our Facebook page if you want to watch it back. Just flick up and have a look. It was close. As you see, the man currently 3rd place in the Protyre Championship Cruise here, 7th in the overall rally, Sam Toozle. Max Freeman alongside. Sam has benefited from a lot of tuition and indeed even some co-driving from 3-time British Rally champion Matt Edwards, who is currently in Barbados, getting ready to co-drive and provide the same level of support for Paul Horton out there. Looking forward to catching up with Matt later this week, or next week I should say, when Holly McRae and I fly out to Barbados early on Monday morning to provide coverage of the rally out there. Is that a bit of damage on the front of... It's not damage on the front of Sam's car, it's just the way the spotlight fell. I was just looking at the repeat there, here in the special stage studio. Been a fast start to the year in the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship, seeing just a handful of points separating our top crews. And this man here, the championship leader, Jason Pritchard, Phil Clark alongside. Nicely done in entertaining the spectators gathered here at the water splash there, with a nice four-wheel power drift out on that wet bit of asphalt the other side of the water. But this time less drama. Last time he just overcooked it, and just a combination of locking up and aquaplaning, I think, sent him up the bank, and did look like he could have done a fair amount of damage. I'm pleased to say he didn't. A small dink to the black plastic bit of the bumper at the bottom of the lower grille on that Yaris Rally 2 is about all I could see on the picture that Paul Wakely, our championship coordinator, sent me from the regroup in Duns earlier, which is good news. So our championship leader lives to fight another stage, but it's good news for Neil Roskell as things stand. Just kept them close, didn't it? Cal McCarthy separating them, of course. Hugh Brunton's Drew Sturrock were in, well, they dropped back to 11th place, just behind, 0.7 of a second behind, in fact, the hard charging Mark II of Hugh James and Lewis Sim after the third stage through Bothwell before the regroup this evening. Big push required to get back on terms there. Two Class 1 cars. Two R5s, the Polo you just saw, and the Fiesta R5 of Roger Duckworth separating the two leading two-wheel drive cars. Gordon Morrison, the second of those. As you see, John Stone. Rhys Stoneman alongside. In the Legend Performance Polo R5 GTI. The top 20 position on the leaderboard as far as the championship points are concerned. It was just behind his old nemesis as well. After the third stage this evening at the end of the first loop, John Stone just 8.8 seconds behind Damien Cole. That's an interesting battle. It's like the old times, except as they would both be first to point out. In the old days, 12, 13 years ago, they'd be first, second, or third and fourth, not 14th and 15th. But they are battling on. Haven't had the best of luck, either of them, this season so far. And we know John Stone always comes on a little stronger later in the rally, never comes out of the blocks fighting as hard as he would like. But that's always been his way. It has won in rallies. Damien Cole with a problem then, crawling through the stage. If he hasn't had bad luck this season, he hasn't had any luck at all. Our six-time Asphalt Rally champion. That is galling for the Welshman. We'll find out shortly, hopefully, what the problem is there, but the car does not sound, whether that was a boost issue, because it wasn't, the engine wasn't particularly poorly sounding, was it? Just didn't seem to have any power, so maybe a boost pipe came off. I think that happened earlier in the season, actually. What was it last year I'm thinking of? It seems to be a fairly common problem of Damien's, actually. Scott Macbeth, Dan Forsyth then in the white polo. In the dark, you'd mistake it for Hugh Brunton, wouldn't you? Just the light's starting to lower now, and this is where the atmosphere really comes alive. You'll see the camera flashes picking out the cars and just flashing on bits of the livery. You'll see the spotlights dancing on the spectator bank, coming through the water splash with bow waves, picking out the bank like searchlights, as you see Steve Simpson, Harry Walshaw alongside the former Motorsport UK Academy co-driver. Works at Ginetta as a fabricator, actually, does Harry? Knows his way around a welder or two. They were 9th in the Protyre Cruise. Coming into this stage, and there's Carl McCarthy, Eric Carnan, who at the moment are splitting our 2 leading championship protagonists. 0.3 of a second behind Jason Pritchard and Phil Clark in the Yaris Rally 2 coming into this stage, and 3.8 ahead of Neil Roskell and Rob Fagg. A fight that I'm sure they are delighted to be in, I've got to say. Alex Vassallo, Chris Lees. Be interesting to see how they get on this time in the Rally 2. It was an accident that cut their rally short on stage 2 last season here on the Jim Clark Rally when they were in the DS3 R5. Here they are in the Rally 2 Fiesta. Some big expectations that they've put on their own shoulders. Well, they've already got further than they did last year. Not registered for points, but it will be interesting to see how they measure up to our Protyre Cruise. But here is the rocket-propelled, seemingly Mark II Escort of Hugh James and Lewis Sim. 10th overall in the Protyre Cruise. In that Class 3 leading Mark II. We used to be the B13 class here in the Protyre Championship in old money. And just to update you on the overall leaderboard, Ewan Thorburn has taken the lead. 0.9 of a second. This is after the second stage, the Fogo stage, from Myron Evans. You'll remember from a few moments ago, he halved that advantage through this first stage of the loop, through the Langton Mill stage, and he has taken that lead. The local man, finally, as far as day one's concerned, some luck going his way, but not much luck going the way of Brad Cole and Jamie Vaughan. The car was cutting out after the compressions in the first loop, and they've definitely lost some time there, haven't they, to Roger Duckworth and Alan Cook. Brad and Jamie just really starting to get on terms with that Rally 2 Fiesta, but problems with that first loop with the car cutting out, sending them spiralling down the leaderboard into 23rd after the third stage, coming into this one in the Rally 2 car. He'll be disappointed with the way his evening has gone. One of the drivers who, in our championship, wears his heart on his sleeve and is very hard on himself when things don't go his way, as Ross Hunter in the 2:08 Rally 4. Just flicking back to the time through this stage. Sam Touzle putting in a 4th fastest time overall, as you see Gordon Morrison. Michael Hendry alongside, coming in 15th overall in the standings. Took a top 10 in the Protyre Cruise last season. At the moment, he's going to have to overhaul Hugh James and Lewis Sim for that one. But yeah, Sam Touzle. Mark Kelly as well, a 154 and a 154.5 respectively. Less than 4 seconds off the pace of Thorburn, who is our new rally leader. Dan O'Brien, Liam Regan there. Last time we saw them on the Jim Clark. Don't forget, they come back out of a bit of a hiatus on last year's. Just got it wide on the bank there as well, didn't they? Just their hiatus ended on Rally North Wales in 2024. We saw them back out. But the last time we saw them on Jim Clark was in 2011. It's a fair old gap, isn't it? Great to see them back out. There's Rob Cotton, Ethan Kidd looking for a big result this weekend. James Williams did not have a good stage through here. He was equal 7th fastest with Hugh Brunton in the polo through this second running of Langton Mill. Bear in mind he was 3rd fastest through the first running of the stage, as you see. Darryl Taylor. Catlin alongside. James Williams faster in Fogo though, 4th fastest in fact. Just 0.8 of a second off Myron Evans, but the first of our Protyre crews once again. That seems to be the order of things. James Williams, Callum Black, in that order. So far, there's Dan Bird, Emma Morrison getting to grips now with that new to him Skoda Fabia Rally 2 Evo. 3rd rally in the car after the East Riding stages and the Pendragon Rally. First time though on the Jim Clark in any car. Some nice variety for you on the entry list this weekend. Looking forward to a bit of Group A later on with a Mitsubishi Evo 6, Mitsubishi Evo 3 as well. Anti-lag turned up to the max. Reminded Louise Aitken-Walker earlier of Andrew Cowan. Look out for that. Got a thumping Vauxhall Firenze as well. Jimmy McRae replica coming out. And Jimmy will no doubt give that a second glance when he sees it in the service area, or if he has, no doubt he already will have done. Looking forward to that. We've got the TR7 of former Jim Clark Rally winner David Kynaston with that thumping great V8 British Leyland soundtrack. The big old bonnet with its spot lamps bolted on the front will look glorious in front of the spectators here at Langton Mill, won't it? And hopefully we'll have that Fiat X19 of Phil Morton, Joe Hind Morton, to entertain us again. It pulled over with what looked to the uninitiated, as we were by the side of the stage, like a clutch issue earlier. Hopefully they will be back out. As you see, Ben McDowell and Alison Horn in the BMW 130i. Sounds powerful, doesn't it? Howling through the trees on the snaking bit of stage up to the top. The spectators gasping and giving us an idea that perhaps that BMW overshot the top hairpin. There's Dane Walker, Michael Motes. Expect them to go well on the overall 2-wheel drive leaderboard this weekend. Robert Jurgensen, as far as the overall results is concerned, is moving up pace-wise as well. 2nd fastest through the 5th stage of the day. And there's John Rintoul with Ross Hind alongside. They were 25th in the class last season. Bruce McCombie with Terry McCombie alongside there. Stepping up into that Fiesta for this season. They were 7th in class last time on the Jim Clark. They'll struggle to repeat that with the competition around them in the class this time out, I've got to say. And there's Stephen Were with Carl Williamson alongside. Again, stepping up to that Rally 2 Fiesta, 4th in the class last season. Here on the Jim Clark. A repeat of that performance, very unlikely indeed. James Williams then keeps hold of the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship lead. 14.4 seconds on leaving this Langton Mill stage from Callum Black, Jack Morton, our reigning champions, who in turn are 9.8 seconds ahead of Sam Tuzel and Max Freeman, who are hard charging, and they are here for nothing other than championship points, let me tell you. Third overall in the points, just 3 points behind Neil Roskell. Roskell in turn just 2 points behind Jason Pritchard after as many rounds. It's close at the top then, but James and Callum are both back here to score points. Mark Kelly in fourth after this fourth stage of the day. Jason Pritchard making up lost ground after that issue in the first stage. There's a couple of, well, let's call them untidy moments. They weren't exactly incidents, were they? Firstly, on the first right-hander of the stage here in Langton Mill, and then secondly, right in front of the spectators and right in front of our live cameras here at the Water Splash, overshooting and going up the bank. But they're in fifth overall in the Protyre Cruise after this fourth stage of the day. Callum Graffin in that unmistakable pink and blue liveried Peugeot 208 Rally 4. KG Motorsport car making an awful racket in the woods here. Don't forget, we'll be live with you tomorrow. Live coverage from day 2 of the Borders Competitions Jim Clark Rally coming your way from 10:30 in the morning, as you see. Stephen Woe, Carl Williamson, I thought I'd seen them earlier. The light is playing tricks on me here. We can't actually, from the position that I'm at, I'm not as close as the camera that you're watching. I'm struggling to pick out the numbers on some of the cars. Obviously some are easier than others. Sam Mason, James Seymour, their first time on the Jim Clark. Last year, Sam's first senior rally year was in the junior championship, wasn't he? Until the end of the 2023 season. Ryan Burns, Malcolm Reed then, just looking into tomorrow's schedule for you. It's the Edrum stage, which will be an 8.16 mile stage. Run twice, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. We'll be with you for both of those stages live, 10:30, and then just before 1:15 in the afternoon. Tomorrow's mileage, 54.4 miles. As you see, Willie Patterson and Mini Rally Challenge competitor switching seats into the co-driver seat for this one. Tom Hind alongside in the Evo 9. Yeah, so the total mileage of the rally this year, 100.9 stage miles. These crews are going to know they've done a rally, aren't they, by the end of the weekend? There you go. I promised you that you wouldn't be able to mistake that Evo 6, and you even got a bit of a closer look at it, didn't you, as well? Barry Groundwater swapping the Subaru World Rally car for that Evo 6 this year. You see John Morrison and Sinclair Young, who took the top 20 in the class last season in their Fiesta R5. Powering their way through the stage, as are Joe McCann, Charlotte McDowell, just outside the top 10 leaderboard overall on last year's Jim Clark Rally in the Protyre Cruise, not joining us in the championship this season. But we have gained James Lightwater and Megan O'Kane. James Lightfoot, sorry, not Lightwater. I was watching the water splash. There's a Freudian slip. If ever there was one. As you see, Darren Martin and Dan Hurst, who come in 16th in the championship standings. Just 2 points separating them from that 15th spot, and they'll be here to get it. Good all the points this weekend. We'll help them do just that. Mike English said after the first loop of stages that this is what rallying is all about, and by this he's referring to being in a World Rally Championship spec car, driving some of the most iconic asphalt rally stages in the sport, and on great stages. He really enjoyed Bothwell. And you know what? Why would you do it if you weren't enjoying yourself? Getting it all wrong there. Nathan Bolton, what are you doing? And you know what? He'll still have a massive cheesy grin on his face. Phil Kenny alongside, who'll probably be telling him off. I can't imagine there'd be a grin on the co-driver's side, because it was the co-driver's side that was heading very fast towards that gate post, wasn't it? I know all about those. 41st overall on the championship standings. Needs some points here. It was a rotten Manx rally for him. A crash on day one, taking out the wheel and half of the suspension. The Legend Performance team, Paul McGretton and co, getting the car back on the stage, and Nathan enjoying a bit of seat time and getting used to the car. As we went into day two, Stevie Irwin's fantastically prepared Nova there, doing the business, chucking it into the water splash, wasn't he? First rally of the year for Stevie. Looks like Hugh James has stopped. Stopped in the stage. We'll keep an eye on that one. Yeah, there's Des Campbell, Craig Forsyth just coming through the stage there, but it does look like Hugh James has stopped in Fogo, actually. Just as I was about to give you a rundown of the class positions as well. There is the TR7 V8. David Kynaston locking up the brakes slightly before the water splash. Quick blip of the throttle. Clear those carbs and off he goes up the hill. Rob Proudlock, Daniel James lead the way in Class 2 in the Fiesta Rally 3 Evo. From Rob Cotton, Ethan Kidd, these are the overall results, not the championship results at the moment. Barry Groundwater, Sean Donnelly behind them. There's Mark Holmes, Jonathan Craig leading the historic cup, but they're not going to get any more points towards that here in a Fiesta R5, are they? Hugh James, Lewis Sim did lead Class 3. They came here leading the championship in Class 3 as well after stage 4, but as I've just mentioned, it looks like on the tracker that we're watching here in the studio, they have stopped in stage 5 Fogo. We'll keep an eye on that for you. Gordon Montana Morrison behind them. That's the championship battle as well. As you see, Alan Wellesby and Robert Rhys-Jones, 1 point off 16th on the leaderboard in the championship standings. First time on the Jim Clark, no better time to be grabbing hold of a haul of points. Pretty much perfect weather conditions this evening. Cooling off a little bit, but nothing that anybody didn't expect. That's a bit of double negative for you Friday evening there. Ashamed of myself. It is due to rain at about midnight tonight, so could be wet to start tomorrow. How glorious is that? The noise of that BMW is just something special, isn't it? John Marshall, Craig Wallace, the first of the European spec, shall we call them, historic H1 M3 E30s. 2016 Scottish tarmac champion behind the wheel. And there's the second of them. Listen to that, Ernie Graham, Karen Graham. European historic champions, but did everything but the Jim Clark in 2024. Boy, are we pleased they're doing it this year. The noise of that thing is just something else. Struggled a bit on the Manx, didn't he, in that M3, but seems to have got things hooked up here. As you see, Adrian Spencer reported that he was enjoying himself earlier. No issues to report at the regroup. Just back to the class battles then. Class 5, Carl McBride leads the way. Darren Mullen alongside. Callum Graffin, Mark McGinn in second place. This is the 208. Class for the majority, at least, in the top 4 or 5. As you see, the lovely Mark III Astra. Nice to hear that Louise Aitken-Walker shared my fascination with them in that F2 car. Carl Tour, Robin Tour looking for a better result than their DNF last time out. And there's Barry Renwick, Paul Hughes, who desperately needs some points on the board after just 1 point from starting the opening round. Way back on the East Riding stages. My home rally. Seems a long time ago now, doesn't it? Stevie Irwin leads the way in that glorious little Nova. Callum Young alongside in Class 8 after this 4th Langton Mill stage. Don't forget the crews are currently in Stage 5, and if you head to results.djames.org.uk or just look on the Jim Clark Rally website, you will find the live results to check yourself. Des Campbell behind. Craig Forsyth as well in the Peugeot 206. There's John Trenholm. Wife Allison alongside in the Impreza. And in Class H1, Ernie Graham, you've just seen him through in the E30 M3, is followed by David Kynaston. You always knew that Subaru was going up the bank. The spectators were loving the spectacle there. The grass bank has taken a bit of a thumping this evening, hasn't it? The recovery crew thought they had a job on their hands then, but not quite, guys. Stand back down. You're not needed just yet. Stephen Chalmers, Bonnie Papa. First time on the Jim Clark, actually, done the Reavers, and there's Chris Richmond Hand, who should be coming alive now. He loves these night lanes. Twice a winner of the possibly the most famous, most formidable road rally, the Kilwendeg in Tavy Valley. And that glorious KP60 Starlet, which has garnered so much, and rightly so, attention from rally fans since coming out in its new guise this season when it broke cover at Pembrey earlier in the year. Loves the lanes, loves the dark. Was looking forward to getting into the dark and seeing what he could do. Not here registered for Protyre points, but I'm certainly interested to see how that Starlet does overall. We've seen a few of those Starlets next week, one out in Barbados. Quite the car of choice over in BCIC Rally Barbados in the Caribbean, I can tell you. KP61 seems to be the way out there, though, the slightly facelifted one. Michael Harbour, Cameron Dunn, before we get too nerdy on the rally car front this evening. Let's get back to the running order this evening. There smart looking at the moment. Unfortunately, stationary. Michelin pilot liveried GC8 Impreza with its almost Group A soundtrack. Certainly switched to anti-lag full, that isn't it? Max Redpath, Callum Redpath, alongside local pair who will be enjoying their local stages in that fantastic looking car. Luke Constantine, Ivan Devine then coming here leading the Class F in the championship. A decent result here on the Jim Clark. We'll see them leaving in the lead as well. It sounds obvious to say, but points tell a story there after just 2 rounds. The young driver doing a great job so far, as is Jake Smith. Dave Tortoshell alongside there, actually. Only his 2nd year of rallying and 2 class top 10s to start the season in 2025. It's not a bad way to start it, is it? You see Ross Jarrett and Claire Mole. Of course, used to co-drive among many on a very illustrious CV for our current overall rally leader, Ewan Thorburn, back in his 4-wheel drive BRC days, the Group N days in the Subaru. They were good days, weren't they? Just had a message from my dad, Woodford Senior. Quite enjoyed the banter with Louise Aitken-Walker through the first stage live stream. If you want to listen back to that, it's still on the special stage page on the special stage TV. Louise Aitken-Walker is quite the dad's favourite, isn't she? My mum quite likes her as well, actually. Take no offence whatsoever at that, Louise. Alfie Hammond, Peter Williams, I better continue and move swiftly on, hadn't I? And they're joining the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship for the first time, registering for points from this round, and we're delighted to have them. James Leifer and Ola Budnitska in the 208 Rally 4. Graham Usage, Russell Joseph. Another crew needing some points on the board to get their championship campaign up and running here. We should now be seeing the second of our new entries, but we're not actually. Megan O'Kane just yet. That's Jack and Helen Hall in the Proton Satria, or Proton Compact to give it its proper name. Not sure whether the Satria came first or after. The Compact came first, they were called the Compact to begin with, and Satria afterwards, I think. But now I'm getting really nerdy. I need Phil Burton from Maple Garage to confirm that for me. And that must be William Mains. I can hear the throttle bodies on that. Championship leading Class G, Vauxhall Nova, Emma Clark alongside. Equal on points with Jack Edwards actually in the championship standings, but Jack not here to fight for points this weekend, so a good weekend for scoring a fistful of points towards that championship campaign for William. No Megan O'Kane and Nikki Addison just yet. Just on the stage start now, so having dropped back a little bit. We have got a few cars just running slightly out of order. The cars will be reseeded tomorrow according to position, so I expect a very different start list in the morning. Looks like there's a stage stoppage in Folk. Guys in there this evening. Alex Kirk-Willie there, Sasha Herriot. Again, that Super 1600 courser needs some points on the board. Not the best start to the season for them. Last time Peter Fleming and Yvonne van Walton in that Mark II did the Jim Clark. 3 years ago, they were 8th in class. This is the part of the evening that I really do enjoy on these rallies. You can see the spotlights dancing around in the distance. The atmosphere just seems to come alive. I'm almost wishing I was positioned in that spectator. No offense, producer Way. It's nice and atmospheric in the studio band as well. And at least I've got the tracker to give me an idea of what's what. But it looks lovely, doesn't it? Sat there on the hillside. That was Callum Atkinson, Ricky Finlayson. Here come our leading ladies. Megan O'Kane, Nikki Addison, announced this week as joining the Protyre Championship. Megan, a former Scottish junior champion, and Nikki, a successful driver in her own right in this series in the Honda Civic Type R, you may remember. Steve Brown, Paul Stringer there in the glorious micro kit car. Stored it at the top of the hill. The spectators are always very good at confirming that, aren't they? It all gets a little bit pantomime, that's the word I'm looking for. That's Adam Hogan and Alex Ben. Did the Reavers last year. Interestingly, not the Jim Clark, as Louise reminded us earlier. The difference in budget between the two is often the reason. It's just a one-day event. A little easier on the car and the wallet. Neil Jones, Alan Thomas, fighting for a podium at the moment in the championship standings after 2 rounds in Class E. Champions of the Welsh Tarmac in 2021. Looking to build their way up to a class championship here in the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. Like Evo 9 of Christian Davies. Sounds glorious, doesn't it? The spotlights dancing around on the hairpins up the hill. Anti-lag turned up to the max. Flames coming out of the exhaust, bursting through the water splash. All the rally senses being tugged on by that Evo 9. One of a number of crews this weekend doing the Jim Clark for the very first time. So there is a number of... There are, sorry, a number of stocked crews. I thought they were taking it easy into the water splash there, but perhaps just a bit of advised caution. They've got hazard warning lights on white tail, but they've certainly lost a bit of time there, haven't they? Stage. Scott Russell, Adam Russell, making up for lost time, having retired from last year's Jim Clark. In fact, the Jim Clark has been the only rally that Scott's done for the last couple of years. 6th in class, 2023. Followed by the disappointment of that early retirement last year. Does look like Andy Brinkley's got some kind of problem mode to be caught in the stage by that little Corsa. And here's Mick Quinn, who actually appeared as to be leading the rally overall, or at least over fastest stage time earlier. Bizarrely, looked like he beat the bogey. But we're pretty sure he didn't, and that was a timing error. Barry Young in second of the Adam R2s. So Ewan Thorburn leads the way as far as the overall rally is concerned. Myron Evans in second place. The gap just 0.9 of a second. The Scotsman overtaking the Welshman through the fifth stage, Fogo. Robert Jurgensen has now moved into third place on the overall rally leaderboard, knocking the first of our Protyre crews, James Williams, back into fourth. Still ahead of Callum Black. Sparks flying on that little Fiesta R2 of Anthony Jevons. Max Kelly alongside second in the standings in Class F, coming to this third round of the championship, the Borders Competitions Jim Clark Rally. And there's something about Sparks dancing around and escaping through the spokes of those Speedline wheels. I bet the photographers, I bet Paul Lawrence, Ben Lawrence, Russ, Mark down there, I bet they got some great photos of that. Greg Lithgow with Chloe Fleming alongside, who I mentioned earlier, started rallying 25 years ago here in Scotland in a Talbot Sunbeam. And there is the car that reminded Louise Aiken-Walker of her good friend in almost, well, pretty faithful actually, I think, at a glance. Worked colours. That lovely Evo 3 of Peter Musgrove and David Hay. First time we've seen them out for a few years actually. 2014 last time in an Escort Cosworth. Oh no, it wasn't actually. We've seen them since then in an S12 Nissan Silvia. Not much luck in either of those two cars, but the Evo 3 seems to be doing the business today, doesn't it? So back to the overall leaderboard. James Williams and Callum Black, the first two of our Protyre competitors, in fourth and fifth on the overall leaderboard at the moment. And a good 20, almost 22 seconds separating them at this stage as well. You see Tom Bjordan and Richard Wardle doing their, well, they did a rally last year, but that was the first time we've seen them since 1986. Almost 40 years since their rally adventure started. Thomas Kevin Davies and Sean Rowlands. Solid top 10 positions so far in the championship fight in Class C. And just behind in that championship fight, the E36 M3 of Richard Poole and Jim Clark. That's Clark with an E, by the way. First time on the Jim Clark for both of those competitors, and doing a good job so far. There's Tom Middlemiss with Richard Stewart. Only saw them once in 2024. That was on the Kingdom stages up here north of the border. Last time we saw them on the Jim Clark was 2023. So James Williams, Callum Black, first and second in the Protyre crews, and split from Sam Touzle in third by Max McRae on the overall leaderboard. Sam Touzle absolutely flying so far, and Mark Kelly behind him, not too far back. There's Fraser McNichol, Charlie McKenzie. Yeah, Sam Touzle doing a fabulous job so far, isn't he? you what, somebody is determined to take out that fence post up there, aren't they? Sorry, that is Tom's Kevin Davies, Sean Rowlands, isn't it? In the wide-arched quarter kit car. Forgive me, it's getting a little dark out here. Cal McCarthy then, Eric Callan, the Irish pair in the C3 Rally 2, currently 5th overall in the Protyre Cruise. Look at that, the rear-wheel drive historic spec Mark II Astra of Mark I Astra, sorry, of Steve Magson, just being picked out by the camera flashes with its spot lamp pod on the bonnet and just stepping out the rear end slightly out of the water splash on the lingering wet tarmac. Look at those spotlights. It's some sight, isn't it? Spot lamp pods, sparks on the brakes, flames from the exhaust, water splash, camera flashes. Bobby McDonald, Martin McCabe there. So Neil Roskell, Rob Fagg. As far as the championship points are concerned, will be happy so far with their progress. Jason Pritchard down in 13th after stage 5. Not having the best of days. Hey, we're getting adventurous, aren't we, at this point in the leaderboard? So you're pleased that you joined us and sticking around, aren't you? It was Tommy Graham, wasn't it? Mark Pickering alongside. Was having a right old do, wasn't he, down there into the water splash? I tell you what, he came in there fast and very lucky to get away with that. That would have felt extremely, if it looks that fast coming into the water splash sideways and getting it all crossed up, then I'll tell you what it is. There we go. Listen to that. Right back to the 70s. How the Twin Master, as it probably is, will it be, or will it be a Terror Trip? I'm not sure now. Got myself thinking on the dashboard of that Forenza. Has Bryn Jones following Gareth Frank through this 4th stage of the day, sorry. 2 more stages to go for these crews. Fogo and then Bothwell. There was a stoppage in Fogo, but does it look like it's got going again? Yeah. Only a brief stoppage then if you're watching the results. There'll be plenty of those to watch as we go into the final 2 stages for these crews. I think our cameraman thought that the 206 was actually coming his way there, didn't we? And that is just something special, isn't it? Locking the rear wheels into the water splash there. The Works replica Group A Astra of George Farrow. Charles Truett alongside. Took a class podium on the Snowman last year as his first competitive event. Did a demo event in the car before that and got the bug for rallying, so... I mean, to be honest, seeing that thing drive past you is enough to give you the bug for rallying, isn't it? You hear the supercharger on that R53 of Gareth Humphries, the Mini Rally Challenge champion. He's having a good season so far, and combining gravel with asphalt as well. 10th silver star on the Malcolm Wilson, 2nd in the class, and doing a good job here as well. Someone who's not having the best of nights, though, is Brad Cole, down in 17th overall after this, or after the next day, after the Fogo stage, actually. Jamie Vaughan alongside in the Fiesta Rally 2. The pair reporting at the regroup that the car was cutting out on the compressions, and there are plenty of those here on the Jim Clark. That is not a problem you want to be faced with. But they have made it through the night. Live to fight another stage. Well, actually, they're still in the final stage, I believe. Simon Stewart, Doug Lever. So let's not give them any presenters curse this evening. And let's hope to see them fighting back out here on these iconic stages tomorrow. I'm talking of iconic. Hauser Mini Clubman into the water splash in Lantern Mill for you. Martin Page, Luke Barry. First time we've seen them on these lanes for 6 years. I seem to think that's a Works livery or a Works-esque livery of some sort. But right now, my archive isn't churning fast enough to bring you that, so you have to work it out for yourself. The light really dropping now, so the spot lamps coming into their own and bringing the atmosphere. The second of the minis through the stage in a different order to what we had them through the first time. Fraser McCurdy, Liam McHugh. You don't want to go too slowly through, especially in a car as low as a Mini, a classic Mini that is. Through the water splash here. It's about as slow as you want to go as we get the first of our Defender Wolves into this fourth stage. George Martin, Alex Carter first on the road. It's interesting as the light goes down, somehow there's something about the air on a night that seems to carry the noise. Perhaps the other noise of the hustle and bustle of the daytime just disappears, and you can hear rally cars all over the place. You see Callum Tyrrell, Matthew Rawcliffe in there, Defender Wolf. The steering box on those Defenders will not be fun on these. Well, I say not be fun, it won't be exact. I'm sure it's plenty fun. Plenty fun. There's a good bit of English for you. Last bit of action then for your Friday night here on the third round of the Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship, the Borders Competitions Jim Clark Rally, and finishing off with the roaring Defender Wolves with Max Murray, who is running well out of order. I did wonder what happened to Max earlier. I mentioned earlier, didn't I? We've not seen him through. Matthew Owen alongside in the DS3 R3 Turbo, a car which you would have seen Callum Black, our reigning champion, by the way, driving here in the old BRC days, if you remember that, in the Miller's Oils livery. Is that car as well? Oh, I thought that's what you were confirming for me, producer Wayne. So Ewan Thorburn leads the way in the overall rally from Myron Evans and Romet Jurgensen. But as far as our Protyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship crews are concerned, 4th and 5th in the overall leaderboard are James Williams and Di Roberts and Callum Black and Jack Morton, perhaps looking to get their championship campaigns here in the Protyre Championship back on track. Mark Kelly, Will Atkins in 3rd, Sam Toozle in 4th, Max Freeman alongside, Cal McCarthy, Eric Callan doing a great job in 5th. Then it's Johnny Greer and Niall Burns, Hugh Brunton, Drew Stewart behind. Neil Roskell, Rob Fagg coming here 2nd in the championship, looking to fight the first place man Jason Pritchard for that championship lead, and they're doing the right way, going the right way about that, because Jason Pritchard has had a nightmare of an evening, down in 16th overall in the Protyre crews at this stage. 13th, sorry, not 16th, behind our 6-time champion, Damien Cole. That is it for tonight's action. We'll be live with you in the Edram stage from 10:30 in the morning. Have a good night. Enjoy looking back over that first stage with Louise Aitken-Walkie if you haven't already. And we will see you bright and early tomorrow morning.